Clean faster! Derek Stone's boot slammed into Marcus Williams' back, sending the 42-year-old black janitor sprawling across the wet gym floor. The mop flew from his hands as 20 wealthy students at Iron Forge Academy watched in stunned silence. Maybe if you spent less time staring at real fighters and more time doing your job, these mats would actually be...
MMA trainer forced a black janitor into the ring, then got unknown out cold in वन हिट। ये जो कहानी है, एक कहानी भी आप लोगों को देखने में भी काफ़ी अच्छा लगने वाला है। कहानी में आप लोगों को बहुत सारी चीज़ यहाँ पर दिखाया जाएगा, आप लोगों को बताया जाएगा, तो आप लोग यहाँ पर ध्यान से आप लोगों को कहानी को सुनना चाहिए। तो चलिए सबसे पहले हम लोग कहानी को देख लेते हैं।
Clean faster! Derek Stone's boot slammed into Marcus Williams' back, sending the 42-year-old black janitor sprawling across the wet gym floor. The mop flew from his hands as 20 wealthy students at Iron Forge Academy watched in stunned silence. Maybe if you spent less time staring at real fighters and more time doing your job, these mats would actually be clean, Derek sneered, stepping over Marcus like he was debris. Marcus slowly pushed himself up, water soaking through his uniform. His weathered hands trembled, not from fear, but from something else entirely. Something Derek Stone had no idea he was awakening. The students shifted uncomfortably. Sarah Martinez, the gym manager, looked away. But Marcus's eyes... His eyes held 20 years of suppressed knowledge that could end Derek's career in under 10 seconds. Derek kicked the mop bucket, sending dirty water cascading across Marcus's legs. There. Now you've got something real to clean up. Have you ever been so underestimated that people forgot you might actually be dangerous? Marcus Williams had been invisible for 3 years. Every night at 6 p.m. sharp, he'd slip through the back entrance of Iron Forge Academy with his janitor cart, becoming part of the background like the expensive equipment and motivational posters covering the walls. The gym sprawled across 8,000 square feet of prime Phoenix real estate, its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the upscale Scottsdale district. Chrome and black dominated the color scheme, from the professional-grade octagon ring to the rows of punching bags hanging like leather sentinels. Everything screamed money and exclusivity. Derek Stone owned 30% of this empire. At 35, he'd built his reputation training Phoenix's elite tech executives, professional athletes, social media influencers. His Instagram feed showcased highlight reels of devastating knockouts and motivational quotes about alpha mentality. The man who'd never quite made it as a professional fighter had found his throne as king of the amateurs, but Derek's kingdom had a problem he didn't know about. Marcus moved through his cleaning routine with methodical precision, emptying trash bins and wiping down equipment while the lobby monitors played security footage from the day's training sessions. His dark eyes absorbed every technique, every mistake, every moment of poor instruction that Derek's paying customers accepted as gospel. What Derek didn't know was that Marcus Williams had golden gloves gathering dust in a storage unit across town. 2 decades of boxing, military combatives training, and competitive martial arts compressed into a man who now pushed a mop for $12 an hour to keep food on the table for his 16-year-old daughter, Maya. Marcus's narrow apartment was a 15-minute drive from the gym, where Maya waited each night with homework spread across their kitchen table. She'd stopped asking why her father took a night shift job that paid so little. The medical bills from her mother's cancer treatment had taught her not to question survival. Coach Rivera, the gym's older Hispanic trainer, had started noticing things. The way Marcus instinctively corrected his posture when watching grappling demonstrations. How his hands unconsciously formed perfect guard positions while wiping down mirrors. Rivera had been coaching for 25 years. He recognized muscle memory when he saw it. Sarah Martinez, the gym manager, kept Derek's harassment complaints in a locked filing cabinet. 3 other minority staff members had quit in the past 2 years, citing hostile work environment. But Marcus needed this job. Maya needed this job. So he absorbed Derek's daily humiliations like body shots, staying on his feet through sheer willpower. Derek's prize student was Tyler Harrison, a 21-year-old college wrestler whose father paid extra for private sessions. Tyler had natural talent but terrible defensive instincts, a flaw Derek consistently failed to address because his own technique was fundamentally flawed. Every night, Marcus watched Derek teach incorrect combinations, improper footwork, dangerous defensive positions that would get these kids hurt in real fights. Part of him wanted to speak up. The larger part knew that crossing Derek Stone meant losing everything he and Maya had left. But in the quiet hours after midnight, when the gym belonged only to him and the security cameras, Marcus sometimes forgot himself. His reflection in the mirror showed glimpses of the fighter he used to be, sharp jabs thrown at shadows, perfect combinations flowing like muscle memory poetry. Those were the moments when Marcus Williams remembered he was dangerous. And Derek Stone had no idea what was coming. Tyler Harrison stumbled into Iron Forge Academy at 6:45 p.m. with a black eye and a bruised ego. The 21-year-old college wrestler had just lost his amateur tournament in devastating fashion, submitted in the first round by a fighter half his size, using a basic rear-naked choke that Derek had taught him to defend incorrectly. "It's not your fault," Derek barked at his prize student, pacing like a caged animal in front of the mirrors. "These street fighters, they fight dirty. They don't follow proper techniques like we teach here." Marcus continued mopping near the equipment rack, but his hands tightened on the handle. He'd watched Derek teach Tyler that same flawed defense for months, chin up, arms too wide, leaving his neck exposed like a dinner invitation. The problem is, these thugs learn to fight in alleys and gyms where anything goes. Derek continued, his voice rising. They don't respect the art. They just swing wild and hope something lands. It's not real martial arts. Tyler nodded miserably, buying every word. Marcus's jaw clenched as he moved closer, ostensibly to clean around the heavy bags. "That's why technique always beats brute force," Derek announced, demonstrating the same incorrect rear-naked choke defense that had gotten Tyler submitted. "See how I keep my chin high and my arms wide? That's the proper form." "No," Marcus whispered, the word slipping out before he could stop it. Derek froze mid-demonstration. "What did you say?" The gym fell silent except for the hum of air conditioning. Marcus realized everyone was staring at him. Tyler, the evening students, Sarah Martinez from behind the front desk. He'd crossed a line he couldn't cross. "Nothing, sir." "Sorry." Marcus returned to his mopping, but Derek wasn't letting this go. "No, please. The janitor wants to teach technique now." Derek's voice dripped with condescension. "You think pushing a mop qualifies you to coach champions?" Marcus kept his eyes down, but Derek stepped closer, invading his personal space. "I said, did you just try to correct my instruction?" The other students gathered around like wolves sensing blood. Tyler looked confused and embarrassed. Sarah Martinez reached for her phone, recognizing the signs of an escalating situation. "Answer me when I'm talking to you," Derek demanded. Marcus finally looked up, meeting Derek's eyes with steady calm. "You're teaching him wrong. That defense will get him hurt." The room erupted in murmurs. Derek's face flushed red with embarrassment and rage. He'd just been challenged publicly by the help, in front of paying customers who expected him to be the unquestioned authority. "Wrong?" Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. 20 years of training, and you think you know better? "I know that keeping your chin up in a choke is suicide," Marcus said quietly. Derek's humiliation was complete. His students were looking at him differently now, questions forming in their eyes. He needed to destroy this challenge immediately and permanently. "Fine. Show us your expert technique." Derek pointed at the heavy bag. "Demonstrate proper form for the class." Marcus shook his head. "I just cleaned here. I'm ordering you to demonstrate. Unless you're admitting you don't know what you're talking about." The trap was perfect. Refuse and look like a fraud. Comply and reveal himself. Marcus looked around the room at Tyler's confused face, at Sarah's worried expression, at the students holding their phones. He walked to the heavy bag and dropped his mop. What happened next would change everything. Marcus's first combination flowed like water, a perfect jab-cross-hook sequence that snapped the 100-pound bag back 3 feet. The chain groaned under the impact. His footwork was textbook perfect, his form flawless. The second combination nearly tore the bag from its mounting. Dead silence filled the gym. Derek's mouth hung open. Tyler's eyes widened in recognition. This was how real fighters moved. Marcus stepped back, immediately regretting his decision. Derek's face had gone from red to purple, his humiliation complete and public. "Don't ever disrespect me in my own gym again," Derek whispered, his voice shaking with rage. "Or you'll be looking for a new job tomorrow." But they both knew the damage was done. The students had seen something that would haunt Derek's nightmares, proof that the janitor knew more about fighting than their expensive instructor. Derek Stone spent that entire night researching Marcus Williams on every database he could access. By dawn, he'd found fragments of a story that made his blood run cold. Amateur boxing records, military service documentation, and newspaper clippings from 20 years ago featuring a young Golden Gloves champion who looked exactly like his janitor. But instead of backing down, Derek's fragile ego doubled down on destruction. Week 1 began with systematic humiliation. Derek started scheduling emergency cleaning during peak training hours, forcing Marcus to mop around active sparring sessions. Students would sweat and bleed on floors Marcus had just cleaned, and Derek would stand over him, arms crossed, ensuring maximum degradation. "Careful around the equipment, boy," Derek would announce loudly. "We can't help breaking anything expensive." The word boy became Derek's favorite weapon, delivered with just enough emphasis to make everyone uncomfortable, but not quite enough to trigger official complaints. Sarah Martinez watched from the front desk, taking notes she hoped she'd never need to use. Marcus endured it with the patience of a man who'd survived worse. Maya needed her school clothes. The rent was due in 10 days. Pride was a luxury he couldn't afford. But Derek wasn't satisfied with quiet suffering. He needed total dominance. Every morning, Derek would arrive early to inspect Marcus's overnight cleaning, finding fault with perfectly spotless surfaces. "This mirror has streaks," he'd announce, pointing at an invisible flaw. "Do it again." Marcus would re-clean the same surface 3 times, while Derek watched with satisfaction. The degradation became a daily ritual. Derek would time his bathroom breaks to coincide with Marcus's presence, ensuring he could deliver fresh insults about knowing your station and accepting reality. Other trainers began avoiding the confrontations, unwilling to witness the systematic destruction of a man's dignity. Week 2 brought psychological warfare. Derek had found those old newspaper articles and began sharing them with his inner circle, spinning a narrative of a washed-up has-been who'd never amounted to anything. "Did you know our janitor used to think he was a fighter?" Derek announced during a group session, loud enough for Marcus to hear. "Golden Gloves, apparently. Look how that turned out." Tyler Harrison shifted uncomfortably. He'd been watching Marcus's movements since the heavy bag incident, recognizing something his instructor clearly didn't understand. The way Marcus unconsciously shifted his weight when watching technique demonstrations. How his hands formed perfect guard positions while wiping down equipment. Derek's social media posts became increasingly pointed. Photos of the gym's professional training environment always seemed to feature Marcus in the background, usually bent over cleaning something, with captions about knowing your place and staying humble. His followers ate it up, sharing memes about ambitious janitors and dreams versus reality. From Derek's perspective, this wasn't cruelty. It was necessary dominance. His entire identity revolved around being the alpha male of Iron Forge Academy. Every student who walked through those doors needed to see him as the unquestioned authority. A janitor who could throw better combinations than he could was an existential threat that had to be eliminated. The harassment escalated daily. Derek would accidentally kick equipment into Marcus's path, forcing him to clean around obstacles. He'd time his loudest training sessions for exactly when Marcus needed to clean nearby areas, ensuring maximum disruption. He'd invite students to tell jokes about ambitious janitors while Marcus worked within earshot, their nervous laughter cutting like knives. Derek began bringing Marcus into demonstrations as a prop. "See how a real fighter maintains distance?" he'd say, pushing Marcus backward while explaining technique. "Some people think watching makes them experts." The students laughed uncomfortably as Marcus steadied himself, never responding to the provocations. Week 3 brought the breaking point Derek had been building toward. "Marcus, hold pads for demonstration," Derek commanded during a busy evening session. It wasn't a request. Marcus looked up from organizing equipment. "I'm not trained for that, sir." "You seemed pretty confident about technique last week. Hold the pads." 20 students formed a circle as Marcus reluctantly picked up the focus mitts. Derek began with light combinations, showing off for his audience, but gradually his strikes grew harder, testing Marcus's tolerance for pain and humiliation. "See how I'm targeting specific angles?" Derek explained to his students while throwing increasingly vicious shots at Marcus's padded hands. "A real fighter adapts power to the situation." Marcus absorbed each impact without complaint, his military training keeping his face neutral even as his hands began to ache. But Derek wasn't done. He began throwing combinations that intentionally missed the pads, glancing off Marcus's forearms and shoulders. "Oops," Derek would say with fake concern. "Better reflexes next time." The accidental shot to Marcus's injured left shoulder, an old military injury Derek had somehow learned about, sent lightning bolts of pain down his arm. Marcus dropped the pads and nearly retaliated before catching himself, his right hand forming a fist before he forced it open. "That's right. Walk away like you always do," Derek called after him as Marcus stepped back, massaging his shoulder. "At least you know your place." But Derek's masterstroke came that weekend. Gym security footage showing Marcus's heavy bag demonstration appeared on Derek's Instagram account with the caption, "When the help thinks they can, fight, #know your place, #humility, #ironforge." The video exploded across social media. Within hours, it had thousands of views and hundreds of comments, most of them ugly, racist, and exactly what Derek had hoped for. "Stick to mopping," read one comment with 50 likes. "Janitor thinks he's Rocky," laughed another. Maya found the video that Sunday night. Her father discovered her crying in her bedroom, phone in her hands, reading the comments that called him everything but human. "Dad, why don't you fight back?" she whispered. Marcus had no answer that wouldn't break her heart further. Coach Rivera found Marcus in the supply closet that Monday night, sitting among the cleaning chemicals with his head in his hands. "I saw the video," Rivera said quietly. Marcus didn't look up. "I need this job. That man is going to destroy you if you don't fight back." "I can't fight back. Maya starts college applications next year. She needs—" "He's planning to fire you anyway," Rivera interrupted. "I heard him talking to Sarah." "He's looking for a replacement." Marcus finally raised his eyes. For the first time since this began, Rivera saw something other than resignation there. Something dangerous was waking up. The gym clock read 2:17 a.m. when Marcus finally allowed himself to stop pretending. The last of the evening staff had gone home hours ago, leaving him alone with the ghosts of his former self and the security cameras that had become unwitting witnesses to Derek's campaign of humiliation. Marcus walked to the heavy bag that had betrayed his secret 3 weeks earlier. His cleaning cart sat abandoned by the wall as he slowly unwrapped the hand wraps he'd hidden beneath the industrial paper towels, old leather strips worn smooth by decades of training, the only remnants of his fighting days he'd never been able to throw away. The first combination flowed like muscle memory awakening from a long sleep. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut, each strike landing with the precision of a surgeon and the power of a sledgehammer. The bag swayed under impacts that would have impressed professional trainers had any been watching. But Coach Rivera was watching. The 60-year-old trainer had returned to collect his forgotten car keys and discovered something extraordinary through the gym's glass doors. Marcus Williams wasn't just throwing punches, he was demonstrating 20 years of accumulated knowledge in every movement. Perfect footwork, flawless combinations, defensive patterns that spoke of championship-level training. Rivera entered quietly, his keys forgotten as Marcus transitioned into grappling movements against an imaginary opponent. The janitor's body moved with fluid intelligence, showing muscle memory that couldn't be faked or learned from YouTube videos. "Holy shit," Rivera whispered. Marcus spun around, caught in the act of being himself. For a moment, both men stood frozen in the fluorescent-lit silence. "How long?" Rivera asked simply. "Golden Gloves regional champion, 2003 through 2007, Marcus said quietly, pulling off his hand wraps. Military combatives instructor for 8 years after that. Mixed martial arts training for 15 years total. Rivera shook his head in amazement. Derek Stone has been teaching incorrect techniques to paying students for 3 years. You've been watching him do it for how long? Every night. Marcus's voice carried the weight of suppressed frustration. His defensive positions are garbage. His combination work creates openings that would get these kids killed in real fights. But I need this job. Not anymore, you don't. Rivera's expression had hardened with determination. I heard Derek talking to Sarah Martinez today. He's interviewing replacement janitors next week. You're gone whether you fight back or not. The words hit Marcus like physical blows. His carefully constructed survival strategy was crumbling, regardless of his submission to Derek's abuse. 3 years of swallowed pride, endured humiliation, and silent suffering, all for nothing. There's something else, Rivera continued. The gym owner is conducting an investigation into Derek's conduct. Too many complaints from staff and students about his behavior. Sarah's been documenting everything, building a case. Marcus slumped against the heavy bag. Maya's college applications are due in 6 months. I can't afford to be unemployed. Listen to me carefully, Rivera said, stepping closer. Derek is planning something big to get rid of you permanently. I heard him on the phone with someone talking about settling this once and for all. He's not just going to fire you, he's going to destroy your reputation so you can't find work anywhere. The older trainer paused, choosing his words carefully. But what if we turn this around? What if instead of being his victim, you became the person who exposed what kind of man he really is? Marcus looked up, seeing something in Rivera's eyes he hadn't seen in years. Respect. Not pity, not sympathy, but genuine respect for what he was capable of. What are you suggesting? A formal challenge. Fighter to fighter. You call him out publicly, demand he face you in the ring to settle this like warriors instead of hiding behind his position of power. Marcus shook his head. He'll never agree to that. He will if you do it right. Derek's entire image is built on being the toughest guy in the room. If you challenge him publicly, in front of his students and social media followers, his ego won't let him back down. Rivera pulled out his phone, showing Marcus Derek's latest Instagram post, another mocking video featuring security footage of Marcus cleaning, with the caption, "Some people just can't accept their limitations." You challenge him in the comments section of this post. Make it about respect and dignity. Force him to either accept or look like a coward in front of everyone who matters to his business. Marcus stared at the phone screen, reading the dozens of racist comments below Derek's post. His daughter's tears when she'd found the original video flashed through his memory. And if I lose? You won't, Rivera said with quiet certainty. I've been training fighters for 30 years. Derek Stone is a regional amateur with good marketing skills. You're a trained killer who's been holding back because you're a decent human being. Marcus rewrapped his hands slowly, muscle memory guiding the familiar ritual. For the first time in 3 years, he felt like himself again. What exactly are you proposing? The comment appeared on Derek's Instagram at 3:47 a.m., simple and direct. You want to settle this like men? I challenge you to face me in the ring. Winner takes all, loser leaves Iron Forge permanently, unless you're afraid to fight someone who might actually fight back. Marcus Williams. By morning, the comment had hundreds of likes and replies. Derek's followers were tagging him relentlessly, demanding a response. His carefully cultivated image as the gym's alpha male was being challenged publicly, and his silence was starting to look like cowardice. Derek arrived at Iron Forge Academy that Tuesday afternoon to find his students buzzing with excitement. Word had spread beyond social media. Local MMA forums were discussing the challenge. Betting sites were taking odds, and amateur fighters across Phoenix were planning to attend what everyone was calling the most anticipated amateur bout of the year. You're really going to fight the janitor? Tyler Harrison asked, genuine curiosity replacing his usual deference. Derek's ego made the decision for him. Backing down would destroy his reputation permanently. Winning would cement his dominance forever. Friday night, after regular hours, Derek announced to the gathered crowd. Since Marcus wants to embarrass himself publicly, I'll give him that opportunity. Word spread like wildfire. By Wednesday, the gym was fielding calls from local sports bloggers and amateur MMA enthusiasts. Sarah Martinez had to implement a reservation system for Friday night viewing, with over 200 people requesting access to watch the fight. Derek spent the week training harder than he had in years, convinced he was preparing to destroy a delusional has-been. His Instagram stories showed intense workout sessions with captions like, "Getting ready to teach some hard lessons," and "Reality check incoming." Marcus trained in secret. Rivera arrived early each morning to open the gym for private sessions, watching in amazement as Marcus demonstrated skills that most professional fighters would envy. His combinations were surgical, his defensive work was flawless, and his conditioning suggested he'd never really stopped training. Friday night transformed Iron Forge Academy into a coliseum. Phones were everywhere, live streams were broadcasting to thousands of viewers, and betting pools had formed among the spectators. Derek pretended for the cameras, shadowboxing and talking trash to his growing online audience. Marcus entered quietly through the back door, wearing simple black shorts and hand wraps. No fanfare, no show, just a man preparing to do what he'd been born to do. The makeshift ring was nothing more than taped boundaries on the main training floor, but the atmosphere was electric. Rivera served as Marcus's corner, while Derek chose Tyler Harrison to handle his corner duties. 3 3-minute rounds, or until someone can't continue, announced Sarah Martinez, serving as a reluctant referee. Touch gloves and keep it clean. Derek bounced on his toes, muscles pumped from his warm-up, talking constantly to mask his growing nervousness. Hope you're ready for this, janitor. Time to learn your place once and for all. Marcus stood perfectly still, breathing slowly, his dark eyes focused with laser intensity. When Derek extended his gloves for the traditional touch, Marcus met them with quiet respect. The opening bell wasn't a bell at all, just Sarah's voice saying, "Fight." Derek rushed forward immediately, throwing wild haymakers designed to end the fight quickly and brutally. He wanted a spectacular knockout that would go viral for all the right reasons. But Marcus wasn't there. The first punch missed by inches as Marcus slipped to the right with minimal movement. The second swing caught nothing but air as Marcus ducked smoothly. Derek's third attempt, a looping overhand right, passed harmlessly over Marcus's head as he stepped inside the arc. The crowd's excitement shifted to confusion. Where was the violence they'd been promised? Why wasn't the janitor fighting back? Marcus spent the entire first round making Derek look foolish. Every attack was slipped, blocked, or avoided with the kind of defensive mastery that comes from 2 decades of superior training. He threw exactly 3 punches-light jabs that snapped Derek's head back and reminded him that he was being toyed with. Derek returned to his corner breathing heavily, his face flushed with exertion and embarrassment. "Why won't he fight?" he gasped to Tyler. "Maybe because he doesn't need to," Tyler replied quietly, recognizing something his instructor clearly didn't understand. Round 2 began with Derek trying to be more tactical, but his technique crumbled under pressure. Marcus began throwing combinations now not to hurt, but to educate. A perfect jab cross that caught Derek clean. A hook to the body that doubled him over. An uppercut that snapped his head back and sent his mouthguard flying. The crowd was on its feet. Phones captured every moment as Derek Stone, the gym's supposed alpha male, was systematically dismantled by a man he'd called just the help. "This isn't a fight," Rivera whispered to Marcus between rounds. "This is a clinic." Round 3 never really started. Derek came out desperate, throwing everything he had in wild, uncontrolled combinations. His form was completely gone, his defense non-existent, his cardio shot. Marcus had seen enough. Derek charged forward with a telegraphed right cross, putting all his weight behind a punch that would have knocked out an amateur. Marcus stepped inside the punch, his left hand coming up in a perfect hook that caught Derek on the point of his jaw with surgical precision. The sound was like a baseball bat hitting a watermelon. Derek Stone crumpled to the floor instantly, his body going completely limp before he hit the mats. The room fell silent except for the sound of dozens of phones capturing the moment that would define both men's futures. Marcus immediately dropped to one knee beside Derek, checking his pulse and breathing with the professionalism of someone trained in combat medicine. When Derek's eyes fluttered open 30 seconds later, Marcus helped him sit up slowly. "You all right?" Marcus asked quietly, genuine concern in his voice. Derek nodded weakly, his pride more damaged than his jaw. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause as the realization hit them. They'd just witnessed something extraordinary. Within minutes, the videos were uploaded to every social media platform. # Justice for Marcus began trending within the hour. Professional fighters and trainers shared the footage with commentary about Marcus's perfect technique and incredible restraint. Derek Stone's reputation didn't just take a hit, it was completely obliterated in under 10 seconds of actual fighting. But as Marcus helped his former tormentor to his feet, showing the kind of class that Derek had never possessed, neither man realized that the real fight was just beginning. Derek Stone woke up Saturday morning to discover his world had ended overnight. The video of his knockout had exploded across every platform: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. # Justice. For Marcus was trending globally with over 2 million views and climbing. Professional MMA fighters were sharing the clip with captions like, "Perfect technique, and that's how it's done." But Derek's humiliation had only just begun. His first call was to his lawyer, Richard Kellerman, an expensive attorney who specialized in turning losses into lawsuits. "I need to see you immediately," Derek said, his jaw still aching from Marcus's surgical left hook. "I'm filing assault charges." By Monday morning, Derek had transformed from defeated bully into victim of unprovoked violence. Kellerman crafted a narrative that painted Marcus as an unstable employee who had ambushed his supervisor during what Derek claimed was supposed to be a light training demonstration. "My client feared for his safety," Kellerman announced to the Phoenix ABC affiliate that evening. "Mr. Williams used professional-level violence against an amateur trainer who was simply trying to help him work through his anger issues. This was clearly a premeditated assault disguised as a sporting event." The arrest happened at Marcus's apartment complex at 6 a.m. Tuesday morning. Maya watched through their kitchen window as 3 police officers led her father away in handcuffs, her 17-year-old heartbreaking, as neighbors emerged from their units to witness the spectacle. Derek's media blitz was perfectly orchestrated. He appeared on local morning shows with his jaw dramatically wrapped in gauze, speaking softly about his traumatic experience and his fear of further violence from someone he'd tried to help. "I gave Marcus Williams a job when no one else would," Derek told Channel 12's sympathetic anchor. "I tried to mentor him, to give him structure and purpose. This is how he repaid my kindness with violence and aggression that could have killed me." The selective editing was masterful. Security footage showed Marcus throwing the knockout punch, but conveniently omitted the weeks of harassment, the public humiliation, and Derek's own aggressive behavior leading up to the fight. Social media algorithms pushed Derek's version of events to audiences already predisposed to believe his narrative. Public opinion began to shift. Local Facebook groups filled with comments about violent criminals and dangerous individuals who don't belong in civilized society. The original hashtag Justice for Marcus was overwhelmed by hashtag Justice for Derek, posts calling for Marcus's imprisonment. Marcus's court-appointed attorney, Jennifer Walsh, was an overworked public defender handling 47 other cases. During their 15-minute consultation, she reviewed Derek's claims with growing concern. "Mr. Williams, they're seeking felony assault charges with enhanced penalties for workplace violence," Walsh explained, her voice tired from too many impossible cases. "Mr. Stone's medical records show potential concussion symptoms. His lawyer is claiming lost income, emotional distress, and ongoing medical expenses totaling over $200,000. Maya sat in the courthouse hallway during her father's arraignment, watching Derek perform for the cameras outside. His injured jaw didn't prevent him from giving multiple interviews about his long road to recovery and his fear of retaliation. The legal proceedings moved swiftly. Kellerman filed motions to suppress the viral video evidence, claiming it was taken without proper consent and inflammatory to potential jurors. He demanded character witnesses for Derek and painted Marcus as a violent individual with extensive combat training who deliberately concealed his dangerous capabilities. Sarah Martinez found herself caught between two impossible choices. She possessed crucial evidence of Derek's harassment pattern, her carefully documented complaints, security footage showing weeks of abuse, and recorded conversations where Derek explicitly planned to destroy Marcus. But gym ownership pressured her to remain silent, fearing liability if Derek's behavior became public knowledge. "If you testify against Derek, you'll be terminated immediately," warned James Morrison, Iron Forge Academy's primary investor. "We can't have employees undermining our trainers, regardless of personal feelings." Meanwhile, Derek's social media following exploded. His victim narrative attracted thousands of new followers who saw him as a symbol of hard-working Americans threatened by dangerous criminals. His GoFundMe campaign for recovery expenses raised $50,000 in 4 days. The turning point came from an unexpected source. Maya Williams, devastated by watching her father's character assassinated daily on social media, created her own TikTok account and began posting videos defending him. "My dad is the most gentle man I know," she said in a video that would eventually reach 3 million viewers. "He worked night shifts cleaning that gym to pay for my school clothes and my mom's medical bills before she died. Derek Stone tortured him every single day for 3 years and nobody helped him." Maya's videos humanized Marcus in ways his attorney couldn't. She showed his old Golden Gloves trophies, his military service awards, and photos of him volunteering at youth boxing programs before financial desperation forced him into janitorial work. But Derek's legal strategy was working. The prosecution painted Marcus as a trained killer who had deceived his employer about his violent capabilities. They argued that his military and boxing background made him legally responsible for exercising restraint, regardless of provocation. "Mr. Williams is not the victim here," prosecutor Amanda Carter argued during pretrial hearings. "He is a grown man with extensive combat training who chose to use potentially lethal force against an amateur athlete during what should have been a peaceful workplace interaction." The preliminary hearing was packed with supporters from both sides. Derek's followers filled half the courtroom, many wearing Justice for Derek t-shirts and holding signs about workplace safety. Marcus's supporters, mostly from Maya's viral campaign and the broader hashtag Justice for Marcus movement, occupied the other half. Coach Rivera sat in the back, his phone containing the crucial evidence that could save Marcus, but also destroy his own livelihood if Iron Forge Academy retaliated. He'd secretly recorded Derek's harassment on multiple occasions, capturing audio that revealed the true nature of their relationship. But as Rivera watched Marcus face the possibility of 5 years in prison for defending himself against 3 years of systematic abuse, he realized some things were more important than job security. That night, Rivera uploaded 17 minutes of audio recordings to a private YouTube channel and sent the link to Maya Williams with a simple message: "Your father is a good man who deserves better." Maya's hands shook as she listened to Derek's voice degrading her father with racial slurs, threatening his job, and explicitly planning to break him down until he quits or does something stupid. Within hours, the evidence was viral. # Justice. For Marcus resurged with devastating force as the full context of Derek's abuse became undeniable. But Derek Stone wasn't finished. Backed into a corner with his reputation in ruins and his legal case crumbling, he prepared to play his final, most dangerous card. The Maricopa County Courthouse buzzed with tension on the morning of Marcus Williams's trial. Media vans lined the street, protesters held signs supporting both sides, and security guards monitored crowds that had grown increasingly vocal since Rivera's audio recordings went viral 3 weeks earlier. Derek Stone sat at the prosecutor's table looking like a different man. The confident gym owner who had terrorized Marcus for 3 years was gone, replaced by someone whose reputation lay in smoking ruins. His social media following had collapsed from 200,000 to 30,000 overnight. Sponsors had withdrawn their support, and Iron Forge Academy's membership was hemorrhaging. But Derek's lawyer, Richard Kellerman, remained confident in their strategy. Despite the damaging audio evidence, they still had one powerful weapon: the law itself. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," Kellerman began his opening statement, "this case is not about workplace harassment or hurt feelings. This case is about a trained fighter who used potentially lethal force against an amateur athlete who posed no real threat to him." Kellerman painted Derek as the true victim, a man whose career had been destroyed by a single moment of violence that could have easily resulted in death or permanent brain damage. He emphasized Marcus's extensive combat training, his military background, and his deliberate concealment of his fighting abilities. "Mr. Williams is not some helpless janitor," Kellerman argued. "He is a Golden Gloves champion and military combatives instructor who knew exactly how dangerous his actions were. The law is clear. Superior training creates superior responsibility." Marcus's attorney, Jennifer Walsh, had been transformed by the case's viral attention. Pro bono legal support from high-profile civil rights lawyers had given her resources she'd never possessed before. But she still faced an uphill battle against Arizona's strict assault statutes. Derek's testimony was masterful theater. Still wearing a subtle neck brace for ongoing injury symptoms, he spoke in measured tones about his traumatic experience and his genuine fear for his safety. "I thought I was going to die," Derek said, his voice breaking slightly. "One moment we were having a friendly competition. The next moment I was unconscious on the floor. I still have nightmares about that punch." Kellerman guided Derek through selective memories that painted him as a mentor figure who had tried to help Marcus channel his obvious frustration into positive outlets. Derek claimed the fight had been Marcus's idea, describing it as an unprovoked attack during what I thought was a training exercise. The cross-examination was brutal. Walsh had spent weeks preparing for this moment, armed with Rivera's recordings and testimony from multiple witnesses. "Mr. Stone, in your own words recorded on March 15th, you told Coach Rivera, and I quote, 'I'm going to break that boy down until he quits or does something stupid. Do you remember saying that? Derek's composure cracked slightly. I don't recall that specific conversation. You called Mr. Williams boy consistently for 3 years, didn't you? I may have used casual terms. Casual terms? Walsh's voice rose. Mr. Stone, we have 17 different audio recordings of you using racially charged language to demean Mr. Williams. Are you telling this jury those were casual terms? Derek's face flushed red, his carefully maintained victim persona beginning to slip. I never meant anything racial by... You kicked over his cleaning bucket deliberately, didn't you? That was an accident. You scheduled emergency cleaning during peak hours specifically to humiliate him? I needed the facility maintained. You posted a video of him on social media with mocking captions. Derek's voice rose defensively. I was just showing that some people need to understand their limitations. The courtroom fell silent. Derek had just revealed his true character to the jury in a moment of unguarded honesty. Sarah Martinez's testimony was devastating. Despite pressure from gym ownership, she had decided to tell the truth about Derek's systematic harassment campaign. Her meticulously documented complaints painted a picture of escalating abuse that culminated in the confrontation. I filed 7 formal complaints about Mr. Stone's behavior toward Marcus Williams, Sarah testified. Each time I was told to handle it internally. Mr. Stone explicitly told me he wanted Marcus gone and would find a way to make it happen. Coach Rivera's testimony was the prosecution's worst nightmare. The respected trainer's 30 years of experience gave him credibility that couldn't be attacked, and his secret recordings provided irrefutable evidence of Derek's true intentions. Derek Stone systematically abused Marcus Williams for 3 years, Rivera stated firmly. He used racial slurs, physical intimidation, and psychological warfare designed to provoke exactly the response he got. This wasn't a workplace incident, it was a planned campaign of destruction. But the trial's turning point came when Marcus himself took the stand. Derek's transformation during Marcus's testimony was visible to everyone in the courtroom. As Marcus calmly recounted 3 years of daily humiliation with quiet dignity, Derek's mask of victimhood finally cracked completely. Marcus spoke about cleaning up Derek's deliberately spilled water without complaint, about working double shifts to avoid Derek's harassment, about his daughter Maya crying over the viral video that mocked her father's dignity. I held back for 3 years because my daughter needed me to have that job, Marcus said quietly. I let him call me boy because Maya needed school clothes. I cleaned up his messes because Maya needed food on the table. I took his abuse because Maya needed a father who could provide for her. Derek could no longer contain himself. The man who had built his identity on dominance and control was watching his victim demonstrate more strength and character than he had ever possessed. That's bullshit! Derek exploded, jumping to his feet. You wanted to fight. You loved showing off your superior training. You wanted to humiliate me. The courtroom erupted. Judge Patricia Hawkins gavelled for order as Derek continued his outburst. I gave you a job. I tried to help you, and you repaid me by trying to kill me in front of everyone. Kellerman desperately tried to control his client, but Derek was beyond reason. 3 years of suppressed humiliation poured out in a torrent of rage and racism that destroyed any sympathy the jury might have felt. You people always think you deserve more than you earn. You think you can intimidate your way to respect. Well, look where it got you facing felony charges. The damage was irreversible. Derek Stone had revealed his true character in the most public forum possible, confirming every allegation Marcus and his supporters had made. As security escorted the still ranting Derek from the courtroom, Marcus sat quietly at the defense table, his dignity intact despite everything his tormentor had tried to take from him. The jury deliberated for 47 minutes. The jury foreman stood to deliver the verdict that had taken them less than an hour to reach. On the charge of felony assault, we find the defendant Marcus Williams not guilty. The courtroom exploded. Maya Williams burst into tears as supporters erupted in cheers. Derek Stone slumped forward as if physically struck by the words that destroyed his final hope for vindication. Furthermore, Judge Hawkins announced, Mr. Stone is ordered to pay $75,000 in compensatory damages to Mr. Williams for legal fees, lost wages, and emotional distress. Derek's face went ashen. His expensive lawyer had just cost him more money than Marcus made in 3 years. Within hours, the Arizona Athletic Commission launched an investigation into Derek's training certifications. The viral audio recordings triggered an immediate review that resulted in permanent revocation of his credentials. Derek Stone is prohibited from operating any combat sports training facility in Arizona, the commission announced 2 weeks later. Iron Forge Academy's ownership moved swiftly to distance themselves from their former head trainer. Derek's sponsorship deals worth over $100,000 annually evaporated overnight. His social media following collapsed as the full scope of his harassment campaign became public. Job offers flooded in for Marcus Elite gyms, offering head trainer positions with triple his janitor salary. He turned them all down. Instead, Marcus used his settlement and crowdfunding donations to open Second Chance Defense Academy, a community-focused martial arts program charging on a sliding scale based on students' ability to pay. Everyone deserves to know how to protect themselves, Marcus explained to local news. But more importantly, everyone deserves dignity and respect. The academy taught practical self-defense alongside conflict de-escalation and what Marcus called warrior ethics. True strength comes from protecting others, not dominating them. Maya, now headed to Arizona State on scholarship, served as social media manager. Her videos of her father teaching proper defensive techniques while emphasizing respect went viral regularly. Coach Rivera became Marcus's business partner. Tyler Harrison, Derek's former prize student, was among the first to enroll, finally learning proper technique under Marcus's patient instruction. Derek's fall accelerated. Unable to find work in Phoenix fitness, he took minimum wage at a Nevada chain gym. 3 former staff members filed discrimination lawsuits using Rivera's recordings, adding tens of thousands to Derek's growing debt. The hashtag Justice for Marcus hashtag evolved into hashtag Second Chance Defense, representing a fundamental shift in martial arts culture toward respect, inclusion, and genuine warrior ethics over toxic machismo. Professional fighters visited Marcus's academy to train with the man whose perfect technique and unwavering character had exposed the difference between real strength and aggression. 6 months later, Second Chance Defense Academy had become more than a business. It was a movement that proved true warriors lift others up instead of tearing them down. Derek Stone's greatest punishment was watching Marcus Williams become everything Derek had pretended to be. Respected, successful, and genuinely admired by people whose opinions actually mattered. 1 year after that knockout punch changed everything, Marcus Williams stood in the center of his own academy, watching 12-year-old Sofia Martinez practice the defensive techniques that might one day save her from the kind of bullying that had nearly destroyed her father's spirit. Second Chance Defense Academy had grown beyond Marcus's wildest dreams. The 6,000-square-foot facility in downtown Phoenix buzzed with activity 18 hours a day. Children learned anti-bullying tactics alongside senior citizens mastering practical self-defense. Former gang members trained next to suburban soccer moms, all united by Marcus's philosophy that respect and dignity were earned through character, not violence. The academy's impact rippled far beyond Phoenix. Over 300 gyms across North America had adopted the Marcus Williams Standards mandatory anti-harassment policies, character-based instruction, and zero tolerance for discrimination. The International Mixed Martial Arts Federation created an annual award in Marcus's name, recognizing instructors who embodied warrior ethics in their communities. Maya Williams graduated Arizona State with honors. Her sociology thesis, From Janitor to Hero, How Social Media Amplifies Justice Movements, becoming required reading in multiple universities. She'd been accepted to Harvard Law School with plans to specialize in workplace discrimination law. "My father taught me that real strength isn't about winning fights," Maya said during her TEDx talk that reached 2 million viewers. "It's about having the courage to stand up when standing up costs you everything." Derek Stone's story became a cautionary tale taught in business ethics courses. Now 37 and working at a small gym in rural Montana, he'd lost his house, his social media following, and most importantly, his sense of identity. His occasional attempts to rebuild his reputation were met with immediate reminders of his documented harassment campaign. But Derek's downfall served a greater purpose. It proved that bullies could face real consequences when their victims found the courage to fight back, and communities chose to support justice over comfort. The documentary Second Chance, the Marcus Williams story, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, earning critical acclaim for its unflinching examination of workplace racism and the power of viral justice movements. Netflix acquired distribution rights, bringing Marcus's story to a global audience of 40 million viewers. Professional MMA fighters regularly visited the academy to train with Marcus, drawn by his technical excellence and philosophical approach to combat sports. Former UFC champion Daniel Cormier called Marcus the most important martial arts instructor in America today during a podcast interview that reached 3 million listeners. The Academy's scholarship program, funded entirely by donations from Second Chance Defense supporters, provided free training to over 400 low-income students annually. Marcus's philosophy was simple. Everyone deserves the tools to protect themselves and the wisdom to use those tools responsibly. Coach Rivera, now in his early 60s, served as the Academy's head instructor, while Marcus focused on expanding their anti-bullying programs into public schools. Their curriculum had been adopted by 17 school districts, reducing bullying incidents by an average of 60% in participating schools. Tyler Harrison competed professionally now, his improved technique under Marcus's instruction leading to an undefeated amateur record and a promising professional debut. His Instagram posts consistently credited his transformation to learning real warrior values at Second Chance Defense. The Academy's walls displayed hundreds of thank you letters from students whose lives had been changed by Marcus's teachings. Former victims of bullying shared stories of newfound confidence. Parents described children who'd learned to stand up for others instead of standing by while others suffered. Sarah Martinez, who'd found the courage to testify despite corporate pressure, now served as the Academy's business manager. Her decision to support justice over job security had cost her position at Iron Forge, but gave her something more valuable, the knowledge that she'd helped save an innocent man's life. Marcus's morning routine hadn't changed much. He still arrived early, still cleaned his own facility, still moved with the quiet dignity that had carried him through 3 years of systematic abuse. But now he cleaned floors he owned, in a business built on principles he'd never compromise. The heavy bag that had revealed his secret hung in the Academy's place of honor, accompanied by a plaque reading, "Sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone underestimates." If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to remember that bullies can be defeated when good people choose courage over comfort. Subscribe for more stories that prove ordinary people can achieve extraordinary justice when they refuse to accept extraordinary injustice. Remember, true warriors don't create victims, they create other warriors. The Academy's mission statement, written in Marcus's own handwriting, covered the main wall in elegant script. "We teach people to fight, so they'll never have to fight. We build strength so our students can protect the weak. We demand respect by showing respect. This is the warrior way." As the afternoon sun streamed through the Academy's windows, casting long shadows across mats where former enemies now trained side by side, Marcus Williams smiled. He'd lost a job as a janitor and found his purpose as a teacher. Some victories are worth waiting 20 years to achieve. What hidden strength are you ready to reveal to the world?
तो दोस्तों यहाँ पर आशा करता हूँ आप लोगों ने यहाँ पर कहानी को अच्छे तरीके से आप लोगों ने यहाँ पर देख लिया, अच्छे तरीके से आप लोगों ने यहाँ पर समझा। तो आप लोगों को कहानी देखने के बाद आप लोगों को कैसी लग रही है, आप लोगों को कैसी फील हो रही है, वो आप लोग ज़रूर अपना राय आप लोग कमेंट सेक्शन पे ज़रूर बताना। अगर आप लोगों को कहानी अच्छा लगता है, आप लोगों को इंटरेस्टिंग लगती है, तो आप लोगों को करना क्या है, वीडियो को कर दीजिए लाइक। अभी तक आप लोगों ने लाइक नहीं किया तो लाइक कर दीजिए। चैनल पे अगर आप लोग ने नहीं आया है तो आप लोग जरूर यहाँ पर चैनल को सब्सक्राइब भी कर लेना। ओके, तो चलिए हम लोग यहाँ पर कोई भी और एक नेक्स्ट ट्विस्ट वाला कहानी के साथ मिलते। तो एक कहानी इतना ही था, तो नेक्स्ट कहानी के साथ मिलते तो तब तक के लिए टाटा बाय बाय।